Hey YouTube, welcome back to New Rock City. I'm your host Stephen Moss, and each week I bring you a new band, we interview them, and play some of their music. Tonight for episode 19, we have Jamie Stoffa. You might know Jamie from his work as a lead singer and guitar player for the band Harbor Escape. He's also spent over 10 years working in the music industry, even as a producer. But tonight we're going to be talking more about his solo work, which is where he is venturing in his career now. So, Jamie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped to be here.
I just want to know, first of all, when did you start getting into music?
Um, Man, I've honestly been playing music my whole life. Um, it's funny. I was an all county chorus in elementary school. And then when my voice started to change, I kind of gave up with put singing behind me,
Gotcha.
So I started drumming, and I was drumming for just a couple different bands, just different high school bands. And then I started drumming and doing like backup singing and screaming. And then eventually, um, when I saw there was a ad on Craigslist looking for a singer for a band called at that point they were called This Hero a Legend, and I was like, yeah, let me give it a shot. So I tried out and I made it, and then we changed our name to City at Dawn. I'd say that was like towards the end of 2009 when I joined that band. So that was the first band I was as an actual like front man.
Gotcha. So you started as a kid, then you gradually did the next steps in bands.
Mm-hmm.
What was the point for you when you're like, I want to actually do this as a career?
Actually, it's kind of funny because when I was in elementary school, there was three things I wanted to be. First, it was a doctor. Second, it was an archaeologist because Indiana Jones was so cool. And then the third was a recording artist, right? But I didn't mean like necessarily the person behind the mic. I meant the person that's pushing the faders and turning the knobs, not realizing that's the recording engineer.
Oh, right on.
So for the longest time, I was just like, yeah, I want to do music. I want to do music. And then eventually I realized like, oh, it's an audio engineer. You need to work in a recording studio, and that's how you do it. So I was, still playing in bands, and we started going to the studios to record, and I was like, this is really cool. I like what you're doing, and I think the same thing is for a lot of engineers. It's like it just kind of you play music, or you do a podcast or whatever, and eventually just get more and more into that production side, and you're like, oh, I really love this, and everyone
That's
catches
awesome.
the bug.
So I wanted to bring out that you are a multi-instrumental artist. You mentioned you started in the drums. What is your favorite to play?
I think when it comes to this is a hard question. That's a really tough one because I love singing. And I love being the front man in the band. It's so much fun. But there's something about playing drums that it's like there's a certain like it's power, It's like
Gotcha.
I'm hitting the drum, I'm keeping time. Like I don't know. I think I'd say singing, but followed very closely behind playing drums.
Gotcha.
Those are
I
my
have a
my
drum
two
set
main.
as well, so I get you on that one.
You know what I'm talking about then.
Yeah, I took guitar lessons as a kid for only about 2 weeks. I just didn't really like it, and then I got a drum set, and the rest is history. Like that's what I loved.
So much fun.
But I've always been fascinated about the studio part of it because that's really cool. That as a young age, that's what you were interested in.
It's like
I
random
don't.
for a kid.
Yeah. What was your first job in the studio? Like, when did that part start happening for you?
So the first time I worked in a studio, so I was first recording in a band at this place called Liquid, Likwid Studios in Newburgh, New
Okay.
York. And he eventually changed the name to 502, and I don't know what they're doing now. It was great. I really loved recording there, and that's truthfully where I caught the bug for like, okay, I want to be in the studio because this is cool.
Gotcha.
So he knew this bigger studio that was in Newburgh, that my band couldn't afford to record at, but I reached out to him and just was like, hey, I'm thinking about pursuing this and going to school. Is it okay if I come hang out and like just kind of shadow some sessions? And for like 2 weeks I was interning there, and then it was called Not a Recording. That's a awesome studio. Kind of fell through. I was just kind of busy, and I think he was kind of busy with like not teaching interns how to record. So, it's okay. So eventually I went to school for it, and I went to school for audio production and music industry. While I was there, I was kind of just messing around on my own with recording, and I was doing the classes, learning the business. It was honestly more of like, you could probably cut this out if you need to.
Oh no, good.
It's
It's all good.
probably mostly a business degree that like focused in music and like copyright law and just things around the
Gotcha.
industry. The minor was audio, and I was like I was vice president of the audio production club. So yeah, so when I graduated school, to actually graduate, we had to get an internship. And
Gotcha.
I was lucky enough to get an internship at a recording studio in Bronxville, New York, called the Loft Recording Studios. And I mean, they've done like every pop artist from like the 90s to early 2000s.
Oh wow.
I'm like Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, Rihanna, like every
Oh
it was
geez, really?
in the back of in my office. I had the big like Rihanna plaque for her albums that they did, and
That's cool.
everyone, when I get on a video call or someone would come in, they'd be like, "Oh my God, did you do Rihanna?" I'm like, "No, not me. Sorry,
That's
too
funny.
young." But yeah, so that was my first actual job, and he offered me in engineering. After like I did my internship, he said like, "Hey, you seem to know Pro Tools. You seem to have a real knack for this. Like, if you want to, you know, bring some clients in here of yours, like, feel free." That was the
Nice.
first job, and then shortly after that, about a year later, I moved to Florida, and mostly because I found a job at a studio that was like head engineer, studio manager, like, you're doing it.
Gotcha.
So obviously I took that one. That was at the Zone Productions that when I moved up to Maryland, I just kind of had to leave. But I love
Gotcha.
them.
Well, that was interesting because I didn't. I used to live in New Windsor, and I didn't know that there was a studio in Newburgh.
Are you
That's pretty cool.
serious?
Yeah,
That's crazy. It's a small world.
yeah. My brother still lives in New Windsor.
Wow.
But yeah, so I lived up there for a
Blown
while,
away.
and then moved to Jersey.
Okay. That's awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I knew I liked you.
Your latest band was Harbor Escape,
Mhm.
and you've had some pretty cool experiences with them. And I jotted down two. One I wrote down that you got to open up for POD. That's pretty
Yes, we did.
cool.
Yeah,
What
that
was
was a
that
lot of
like?
fun. Well, it was like uh it was in Cocoa Village in Florida, and they have this amphitheater that's like right near the it's the Indian River Lagoon. It's just a river that separates the mainland from the barrier islands.
Hmm.
And so it's like right on the water. It was the biggest stage I've ever played. It was so much fun.
Wow.
Just imagine like what an amphitheater stage would look like. That's
Okay.
it. And it
Gotcha.
was so much fun. Unfortunately, like at the beginning of our set, it was raining. Everything's
Uh,
like outdoors in Florida. So like at first there was a lot of people kind of like around the perimeter of it, but as it stopped raining, I was like, "Hey guys, it's not raining anymore. You should come on out." So it was a great show. It was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of people there. It was so much fun.
nice.
Yeah. And a lot of other good bands too. Actually, two former clients of mine, Coastal Breed and a band called Dare Defy, played that show with us as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Did you know them before that show, or is
Yeah.
that how you guys end? Okay,
No, yeah, I knew them beforehand.
gotcha.
Yeah.
That's nice. The second experience that I wrote down was you got to play a show with Unwritten Law.
That was our first show as a band. That was,
No
yeah,
way. That's a
yeah,
hell of a first show.
it was. I was like, man, I don't, our bassist booked it. I was like, I don't know who but that's good that we
Wow.
have you. Yeah,
That's
that
really
was
cool.
a really cool first show. We got very lucky with that. And it was packed too. It was awesome.
Now, when you were hanging out with bands like that, was there a piece of advice they gave you that kind of stuck with you to today?
If I could be honest with you, like at those kind of shows, for us at least, especially the Unwritten Law show, they weren't around at all
Gotcha.
before they played. So they were kind of, I don't even know where they were. I'm sure it was like a green room somewhere in the bar that we were at. But them and POD, like we really didn't get a lot of a lot of time to see them.
Gotcha.
They're doing their thing. I mean, really what happens is a lot of people come to Florida and it's like, it's Florida, let's go to the beach, or go
Sure.
see the beach. So you really don't get to, or at least I didn't get to see a lot of people. Maybe they just
Gotcha.
don't like me, I don't know.
Well, no, every band's different. It's funny. I was most impressed with the Used
Mhm.
because I saw them in Knoxville, Tennessee, before the show. Like when all the smaller bands, the opening bands and stuff were playing, the Used was just out in the crowd with everyone, just like watching the shows as if
That's
they were
awesome.
just a fan. And like, and then like after the show, they up at the bar and just hanging outside, and just hanging out for everyone to meet. It was so cool.
That's so cool. What year was that?
Oh God, maybe oh 5, 4,
Wow.
something like that. I don't remember 3. I don't remember.
That's really cool. That's
um,
awesome.
so yeah, it's neat how different bands are like that.
Yeah.
Now, so when you were still in that band, that's when you started to kind of progress to your solo work. I wrote down that you started being interested and started working on your solo stuff in 2018. Is that correct?
Yes and no. So I've always kind of written songs, just always. I mean, I've what kind of triggered all this was like I found a hard drive with
Mm-hmm.
the song that was 13 on it, that I released in the first one I released. I saw like the year that I started making it at, like started like creating the instrumental, and it was like I think the instrumental I started in 2014. I was
Oh
like,
wow.
that's not cool. Like, that's just, it just sat on my hard drive. The hard drive was unplugged and I
Gotcha.
forgot all about it. So I'm like, all right, what else is on this hard drive? And the song sounded completely different than how it does now, because I wrote that long ago. But so it's like I came across that in 2016 and I started rewriting that, and it just kind of like reminded me, like, dude, you like to write music too. Like just write music, and
Gotcha.
if you think that the songs that you're making are like good enough to share with people, like just put them out, and see if
Yeah.
people like them. And I mean, so far, just from like when I showed people 13, the demo version, they were like, I like this, man, you should keep working on it. So I did that, and that's just kind of like the how it happened. It's 2019 that once again I saw the date that I last opened 13. I was like, okay, all right, put the thing out, man. Come on, just do it. And ever since then, it was like, oh, just make music, put it out, just do it.
Gotcha.
That's how it started.
Nice. Well, as you mentioned, that was your very first song. So I'm going to play that. But before I do, what can you tell us about that song?
The song, I'd say like I finished it in 2016, shortly after my grandma passed. That's what the song's
Gotcha.
really about. Yeah, 13 has nothing to do with anything. It's just what the working title that stuck. It's unlucky, right? But yeah, the I could say like the lyrics in it at the end of the chorus, it says like, I want to go back to 102. That was my grandma's house number, and that's actually where
Oh, gotcha.
I had my drum set. That's where I had my first like birth of a recording studio.
Oh,
That's
wow.
where my first band like recorded. The cover of that song, the artwork for it, I actually I don't know if I'll get in trouble for this, but I ripped it off of the realtor's website who was selling the house after we had already moved to Florida and
Oh,
everything.
wow.
So someone sent me a link to it and I was like, oh, cool. So I took the garage portion of the house
Gotcha.
and that's
Well,
the
that's really
artwork for the
cool. So
song.
this is all like homage to your grandma.
To grandma, yep.
That's awesome. All right, guys. So here is 13 by Jamie Stoffa. and welcome back to the show. Is there any difference for you when writing for yourself versus writing for when you're in a band?
I'd say a band, it's a lot easier because there's other people to give you instant input on something.
Gotcha.
When you're doing your own thing, it's like you have to kind of sit around and like, do I like this? Do I not like this? And you have to share it with other people that like, what do you think of this? And you have to kind of, are you being nice to me or are you being real? Like, is this actually okay or no? Like,
Gotcha.
so I'd say there's a lot of internal battles when you're, writing for yourself, but when you're with a band, I feel like the honesty at least should be there, because you're writing something collectively. So it's like, if we're not feeling it, we're not feeling it, but I think it was, for me at least, it's easier to write with a band.
Interesting. I asked that because back on episode 2 of the show, I had Henna Larkin on.
Okay.
And Henna writes like a mixture of folk music and punk music.
Nice.
And many of his songs are political.
Mm-hmm.
And he said for him, it's easier to write as a solo artist because he was in a band and now he's solo.
Mm-hmm.
And he says because when you're dealing with political topics, not everyone has the same views. And also he said he didn't want to make it to come across as like he speaks for the band,
I could
totally for him, it was just easier.
I could 100% see that.
Definitely. And so that made me wonder with you, now that you're doing solo work, are there certain topics or maybe certain songs that you're more willing to write about now that it's just yourself?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm pretty much myself in Harbor Escape and City at Dawn as well.
Gotcha. So your kind of writing style is pretty much the same now as it was before.
At least like I said, the lyrical content, it's really just about like what I'm feeling right now or like going through or something like, I mean, some of Harbor's 3 of Harbor Escape songs were about movies, so it's like, I love American Psycho. So I wrote a song about American Psycho. I would say it hasn't really changed for me now.
Very cool.
But I could totally understand if you're doing something political where, you'll have some opposing viewpoints.
Cool.
Makes total sense.
When you produce, I noticed that you do kind of like a lot of different genres of music.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that that's influenced your writing style at all?
I think so. I take on other genres of music to really challenge myself. I'm confident enough in my abilities that I could do what I need to do. I have a soul artist coming up and like, that's totally new for me. I haven't really done much soul, but it's going to be fun. We're going to, we're going to work something out. It'll be great. I would say I learn a lot from other musicians that I work with, just by watching, by talking to them and just pick things up.
Your second single that you ever released as a solo artist was A Different Sound. So speaking about, the different influences, your second single was called I'm Gonna Break Your Heart. What can you tell us about that song?
I wrote the lyrics to that. There was a band that I was auditioning for called Field Gray, and I believe there's another rendition of them called Asuna right now. Their name is Asuna. They're just like, that's what they're called right now.
Gotcha.
Just to clear that up. And I was trying out for that band and I just wrote those lyrics. Their lyrics are kind of selfish, honestly. It's more of like when you just being honest here, when you start something and you have a change of heart, or it's like whatever you started, it's just not the same that it was when you first were into it. And in this case, it's just talking about a relationship. It's not even true. It's not even about a real relationship, to say the truth. But that's the idea of it. It's like, just when you're into something and then your heart's no longer in it, you do have a right to do what makes you happy, right?
Gotcha.
Selfishly, I mean, you do. I don't know. That's just what I was writing about at the time. I'll say like the instrumental, with the permission from the band that the band broke up and they don't use the song anymore. So the song is different instrumentally, but if you listen to the original one and to what I have, you'd probably hear similarities and be like, oh, wow, it's definitely influenced by that. So I give them a lot of credit for it, allowing me to use a lot of that, and for even giving me a reason to write the lyrics and melody in the first place.
Here is I'm Gonna Break Your Heart by Jamie Stoffa.
I'm gonna break your heart. You know that from the start. myself what I do, where I go, you need to know. The sun is burning us, the sky is falling from above. If this is our last breath, until we get to this, these lines across the bed never spoke these words before. So why are you afraid to open your own doors anymore? It's where you go, it's what you do when you're in the dark. I'm gonna bring you home. Can't you say this is all I wanted? I hope you know this is what you made me. I never wanted to break your heart. I never wanted for this to start. These lines across the bed never spoke these words before. So why are you afraid to open your own doors anymore? It's where you go, it's what you do when you're in the dark. I'm gonna bring you
And welcome back to the show. On episode 9, I had Dustin from Two Eyes Open on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And Dustin has been a musical guest in a number of albums from bands that have been on my show.
Apparently. Oh my God. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, well, even next
Until
week,
after.
I'm gonna have Passion Flower on the show, and he just worked with
He just
Passion
did something.
Flower,
Yep.
and he did with you with your single for C137.
Yes.
How did that come about with you and Dustin? Because he's like everywhere right now.
I know. It's so Dustin and I were Facebook friends just through like mutual groups and interests. And I had posted in one of the Facebook groups saying, I have a song, who wants to do background vocals for it? And he was one of the people that responded to it saying, like, yeah,
Oh, nice.
I'm in. And he was honestly, I gave him the part to do and he did it like I think it was that day even. It was just like super quick, super easy. And then he honestly was the one that pushed me to do a video for it. So I wasn't even planning on doing a video.
Oh, really?
And he's like, hey man, if you want to do a video, like I think you should. I'm down to record a part for it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out with him or really anyone to get their parts recorded in time for the video.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I give all the credit to the video to him, because I wouldn't have done it in the first place.
That's awesome. Yeah, I reached out to him and asked him about it, and he said it was funny because he said you only sent him like a little 1-minute clip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the end of the song. Yeah.
Yeah, so he didn't even get to really know the song either until it was released.
I didn't even really think about that until you just said that.
So yeah, because I asked him about it, and he's like, "Oh, I don't even really know what the song was because I just got a little part of it. You know, I sang my background vocals, and then he's like, I heard it when everyone else."
Oh, I feel kind of bad about that. Oops.
That's pretty funny. So since no one else really got their parts sent in, that tells me the video had changed from the original idea. So what can you tell us about the final video?
So the final video in City at Dawn, the guitarist in that band was very much into film, and I learned a lot from watching him film some of our stuff. We did like a series of acoustic videos, and I learned a lot from how he filmed it, how he edited it, just like the different tricks you can kind of do with film or cinematography, I guess, if you want to call my video that. So I took a lot of what he showed me, and I went to the Zone, and I recorded the video with my dad's Nikon. And
that's cool.
I just did like 3 takes of each instrument, and that was really it. The original idea was I had 5 people help me out with the song, and I was gonna have all of them kind of do their parts while they were there. You know, like I had my friend Chandler play the lead guitar on it, so I was gonna have, if he could just like set up his phone to record, and I could just do whatever I need to do with the video of that. Everyone was just busy that week, so it didn't work out. But the video was pretty much just I was thinking Before I Forget by Slipknot meets All I Want by A Day to Remember. Those two videos,
Gotcha.
the scratchy lyrics on the screen, and then just the up close of like the microphone, or the not really focused on the person necessarily, focused on the instrument. That was ripped off from Slipknot, I'll be honest.
So I'll play the video. Here is the video for the song C-137. And welcome back to the show. So today I went and got my COVID vaccine, and with so many people getting it now, in my area, it's really made it possible for venues to open up. We got shows on the books now. Finally, do you have plans to do shows as a solo artist?
Eventually, I do. I think it's more of a long-term goal at this
Gotcha.
point. Just because I want to make sure I have enough songs and a band together that could play. So I think as of right now, it's a long-term goal, but I absolutely plan on playing some shows out as a solo artist.
Gotcha. Now, what about plans for like an EP or a full length album, or is any of that in the works that you can talk about?
For at least for right now, for the foreseeable future for this, I'm doing good enough just doing singles at this
Mhm.
point. I know it's kind of frustrating because you go to I do this all the time. You go to a band's Facebook or Spotify page and they just have like singles and it's hard to kind of I mean, it's hard to navigate through all of them. I know it's frustrating, but I think right now, instead of putting everything out in like one batch, just kind of put singles out as I make them because I'm trying to just get music out as quick as possible and it's already too slow in my
No, I
opinion.
gotcha.
So
Well, I think that's something that every band is trying to learn and navigate because a couple episodes ago I had Wishful Thinking on.
mhm.
They're from Australia and they've been around since the 90s. But then they broke up for a little bit and then they have reformed now. So we were talking about that. And that's one of the things that he mentioned is like he said for him, it's so backwards because he's used to putting out an album and then going on tour to try to promote the album. And now everybody is putting out singles and you're going on tour to promote the single. Like, so it's just all different, and I don't think anyone's really got a good handle on it yet. So
No.
everyone's still learning.
I think everyone's trying to adjust a bit to
Yeah.
switching to it's kind of a single based system or trying to figure out what works best for them.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that an album is completely or an EP or anything like that is completely out of the question or a bad idea at all. I just think like for me at least right now, that's just kind of where
Yeah.
I'm at.
Well, it's just a strange time for music, and in that same episode, I read a review to him that I was reading from the UK, and it said 15% of music listeners under the age of 25 have never even listened to an album all the way through, not once in their life. So we're just kind of like in this weird age now where people are listening to playlist and not albums. So
Yeah.
I get it. I'm older, so I still like albums.
I hear you. I do. I like to listen through the albums as well.
Yeah.
It's old folk.
Well, and especially the older songs because it was almost like a journey or like a trip, and like
Yeah.
each song kind of helped set up the next song, and it was like
Absolutely.
it was a whole experience.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that part is lost.
I was just talking to my
So-
girlfriend about this too. Like same exact thing. We just started collecting vinyls and we were
Oh,
listening
very
to
cool.
Dark Side of the Moon the other night. And it was
Oh,
like,
nice.
like that's an album that you just kind of need to listen. I mean, there's so many albums like this that you need to listen to it all the way through to really understand every song on there.
Right.
And I mean, there's so many albums like that, but I'm with you. I prefer to listen to albums, but here I am releasing singles. So.
Well, yeah, it is what it is right now.
Yep.
So until then, so you're gonna keep producing singles,
Mhm.
and you're still a full-time producer. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's two questions I want to ask, just because I think it's fascinating to get a producer's point of view. In episode 16, I had a producer on the show named Pete Zen, and I asked him two things. I'm going to ask you the same thing. The first question is, typically, when someone writes a song, it's a very personal and intimate experience. How do you navigate that delicate line of trying to be sensitive while still suggesting someone needs to change part of their song?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I have found the hard. I learned the hard way.
Oh.
I wouldn't say the hard way. It's just over time I figured this out.
Gotcha.
It's I at least don't really speak up about a part until I have an idea for it. Until I have something that I can kind of like say, how about this instead of like, I don't like that. There's a difference
Gotcha.
between just saying that's not good or suggesting that we alter the parts slightly. And I think, well, I'll say like 100% of the time, that works, and I always give them the option saying like, you don't have to do what I'm saying. This is just me personally. I think that this is the route that we should go with it. And you're free to say no. This is, I always tell a client, our relationship is like in the Lord of the Rings. You're Frodo, you have the ring. You're the guy that we got to get there.
Are you
right?
Sam in this analogy?
And I'm Sam. I'm the one that
Gotcha.
I help you get there. That's probably the best piece of advice
cool.
I've gotten, is you be Frodo, I'll be Sam.
Gotcha.
It's tough though. It's definitely tough.
Earlier in the show, you mentioned Pro Tools, and with producing software or music producing software like that, it is now the cheapest and most easily accessible that it's ever been. What would you tell a band are the benefits from using a producer rather than still trying to self-produce your song or record in a home studio?
Perk of having a producer is you be the artist and the producer is the producer. Like the producer will worry about all the technical things, making sure that the song is delivered on time, sounds good. You just focus on performing the best that you can. With like COVID and everything, I've kind of adapted to a virtual recording session kind of situation where we get together. There's a website that I use called Clean Feed, and it's like high quality audio that passes through. It's
Okay,
similar.
so even now people do it remotely.
Yeah, that's how I've been
Gotcha.
doing it with a lot of my clients throughout COVID, just because a lot, like no one wants to be in a closed space.
Sure.
A studio is usually a tight area. We're breathing on each other, so nobody wants to be there right now. I've just been, guiding people on equipment to purchase as far as like interfaces, cables, monitoring, whatever would suit their budget. And then we just do recording sessions remotely. I control it through TeamView, and it's just they literally just record. It's just done on their computer, and then just a simple file transfer after the fact. But back to your question, I would say the perk of working with a producer is you be the artist, the producer is the producer. Like you don't have to worry about any of that. Now, the other thing too is if you don't have the budget for that, like, I mean, it's totally understandable too. I would say if you're gonna try and save money, you should at least have it mixed and mastered by a professional, by either an engineer, producer, whoever you trust to do the work.
Gotcha.
I think that can't really hide anything when it comes to the mix. That usually stands out pretty strong in my opinion.
Your website said that you worked in some studios from Florida and New York. You currently just moved to the DC area. If someone wants to work with you, where are you working out of now? What studios? How can they get in touch with you?
Right now, I don't have a studio that I'm working out of. I'm actually, I think I told you, like my computer broke and everything. So
Gotcha.
I'm kind of behind on, figuring out a place to actually record right now. Right now, I'm just offering editing, mixing, and mastering services. So if you wanted to get in touch with me for that, I could even do the remote stuff still also. That would be pretty much what I'm offering right now. The tracking at the studios, I have to get involved up here. I'm
Gotcha.
still so new right now.
Yeah, you just moved in, so yeah. I get it. But just so people watching could understand, what is the best way for them to reach you?
You can reach out to me on Facebook or jlsaudioBooking@gmail.com.
The last thing I like to do on my show is just give it the floor to you and say, what would you like to say to your fans?
Oh, man. Thank you guys so much for sharing C137, making the first 3 weeks of it incredible. It's gotten around a lot more than I ever imagined it to. So I thank everyone who shared it, who's listened to it. Keep doing that. You'll hear more from me soon.
Very nice. So in the description below, I'll have a link to all Jamie's contact info. You can on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all the normal stuff. For those watching at home, please like and subscribe. Next week, we'll have Passion Flower on the show, so please come back for that. And Jamie, it was really nice talking to you, man. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
All right, have a good night, man.